first look at a mass vaccination site in our area, a new one of 5 in the state. We explain why it might be worth the drive.
But we start tonight with the double murder where a mother, Tammy Briggs, and her daughter, 21-year-old April Williams, were killed.
Tammy's husband is the suspect. James Briggs found dead today after police say he turned the gun on himself. That ended a nearly 12-hour-long manhunt to find James Briggs. This is video from earlier today. We found Briggs' truck being towed away from Craig Sims Parkway. That's off Gordon Highway, less than 3 miles from the house where Briggs lived with Tammy and April.
Will Rio is live for us right there on Craig Sims Parkway. Will, really tough to sum up what this family's been through in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, tough is just the perfect thing to say about this. I mean, like you said, I'm on Craig Sims Parkway, 3 miles away from the home where the mother and daughter were found killed. And right here is where deputies say they found James Briggs dead in his pickup truck. Neighbors saying that it's a complete shock to them, and it's proof that you never know what's going on behind closed doors. Sunday evening, Richmond County deputies got a call about a shooting at the Haines Station neighborhood. Tammy Briggs' son says what they found changed his life.
As a man, you have to grow up and you have to leave the nest. And I feel robbed because I left the nest unprotected and they're gone.
Deputies arrived to find Tammy Briggs and April Williams shot to death. Police say James Briggs, Tammy's husband, was the one who pulled the trigger. Tammy's son says a part of his life is gone.
I feel robbed. We traveled together. We did everything together.
He says his 21-year-old sister worked to be just like his mom, who is a traveler and has worked in healthcare since she was 16.
April was just, a young hustler, April was getting it. April was trying to follow my mother's footsteps, and really do good things.
Here at Haines Station, neighbors say the heavy police presence isn't normal.
Well, Haines Station is it's a very, good neighborhood to live in. It's quiet. We don't have incidents like last night as a norm by any means.
This neighbor didn't want to be named. He says he is friends with James.
I did.
How well did you know them?
We were acquaintances, friends.
He says they were the ones that welcomed everyone into the neighborhood, and James was never seen without his kids.
From the outside looking in, I mean, he appeared to be a really good guy. Everybody will probably say the same thing, but unfortunately, in life, we just never know.
And I spoke with several neighbors around the neighborhood. They say this is one of the most welcoming and friendly families in the entire neighborhood. A lot of the neighbors also said that James was someone who would often go out of his way to help people in a time of need.
And Will, that neighbor really hit the nail on the head. You just don't know what happens behind closed doors. Thanks for sharing some of that with us. That's exactly what our I-team is trying to dig into now. What led up to all of this? 2 people murdered, 1 person committing suicide, and the most chilling red flag in all of this comes from one of the victims herself. 21-year-old April Williams writes on Twitter Sunday morning at 8 a.m., "Nothing no one can do to save my life. Ma, just know I'm your flying angel. If I leave through the night, I'm not scared." We'll never know if her mom got that message because her mom, Tammy Briggs, and April were both found dead later on that same night, which brings us to the suspect, James Briggs Jr. He was married to Tammy, but there are no domestic violence charges on file, no calls to their home. You heard from Will that neighbors say he was very outgoing, very social. But our I-team found out a lengthy rap sheet from the 80s. The earliest charge we could find for armed robbery dates all the way back to 1982. He was just 20 years old, but we found at least 12 charges over the years, everything from armed robbery to assault to forgery. He was convicted of armed robbery up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania back in 1984. He was given a sentence of 75 years, but he was out on parole by 2013. We found he moved down to Georgia, where it appears he really tried to keep a quiet life, tried to reinvent himself. As we said, he didn't have any charges on file here in Georgia, at least until now. So we still have a lot of questions about this, as we're sure you do as well, and our I-team will continue to dig into this.
Much more news ahead after we take a live look outside. This is the Walton Way.
Thursday, so we'll talk more about that weather alert day and also the chance for rain prior to Thursday in my full forecast, guys.
This teenager has been missing for 5 days now, and Richmond County deputies are asking if you've seen him anywhere. 17-year-old Zion Barnes was last seen March 10th on Old Louisville Road right near Bobby Jones Expressway. So if you know where he could be, call the Richmond County Sheriff's Office.
Some patrons will be allowed back for the Masters this year, but not one will be there for the par 3 contest. That has been canceled. It is such a tradition. This contest has been there, part of the Masters, for more than 50 years now. Just a really fun afternoon, fun way for the golfers to play the day before the tournament. A lot of times with their family members acting as caddies. The little kids get in the action. Augusta National says they hope to bring back the par 3 contest for the Masters next year. We hope so too.
Today, more people are now eligible to get the COVID vaccine in Georgia, and many of you may not realize that you're included. People 55 and older can now get that shot, which you've probably heard, but also anyone 16 and older with any of a list of health conditions, and that includes asthma, cancer, diabetes, or this one, even if you're overweight. If your body mass index is above 25, you're eligible to get the shot.
But the problem people are running into is actually getting an appointment. With so many more people eligible, appointments are getting booked out really fast. But this week, a mass vaccination site has just opened in Washington County.
With appointments getting booked, it could be your best bet, even if it's a little bit of a drive, to get that shot. Sydney Heiberger gives us a first look at that clinic opening this week.
So here's how it works. Once you register for the vaccine online, you'll drive up to this parking lot here where a member of the National Guard will check you in. This first tent you'll drive through is the registration tent. The second is where you'll get your vaccine. And then that final parking lot all the way down there is where you'll wait for 15 minutes before you head on your way.
A very quick, simple, and we'll get them on their way.
Quick, simple, but most importantly, necessary.
I know a lot of our healthcare facilities, hospitals, they're overwhelmed. They have been overwhelmed. They've been working hard, and we're just here we're hoping to ease that burden.
Site coordinator David Shanks anticipates serving 500 Georgians a day at GMA's new Washington County COVID vaccine clinic. While the location is meant to serve people in rural, underserved areas of the state, he says any Georgian struggling to make an appointment is welcome.
A lot of work, a lot of people, a lot of moving parts that have come together and allowed us to be able to put this up.
Dr. Michael Parker is the pastor at the Sandersville Word of Life Church. He says it's an operation he expected, but perhaps underestimated.
Even when they start putting up all the tents, I didn't know it was going to be this big. It's probably going to be jam-packed. It's going to be crazy.
The goal? Get shots into arms as quickly and efficiently as possible.
I'm not a big mask person. You know, I like to see somebody smile. I like to see their face. And that's what I'm hoping that we're able to accomplish with this.
So that we can all see smiles again one day soon. This site will start vaccinations on Wednesday, but registrations are already open. All you have to do to register is go to myvaccinegeorgia.com. Reporting in Sandersville, Sydney Heiberger on your side.
Sydney, thank you. And the point of all of this, to keep people out of the hospital. So we're taking another look at this graph we've been showing you, keeping up with the number of COVID patients in our local hospitals, all of them at their lowest numbers since November or before. University has 18 patients. That's the fewest they've had since June. So it's one way to show just how far we've come since this roller coaster, since the start of the pandemic a year ago.
It's hard to believe it's been a year ago when doctors told us COVID-19 was here in the river region with us. Now, with cases and hospitalizations finally trending in the right direction downward, Brady Traveler looks back at how far we've come.
A year ago, I was here on campus at AU for that first COVID-19 news conference. A surreal moment to look back on that sparked a journey that none of us could have expected.
It is in our community.
The word so surreal at the time.
I don't think I will ever forget it.
Set in reality soon after.
You realize that you're standing there announcing that it is indeed happening here, and you come to the realization that we've got a long road ahead.
At the time, Dr. Kuhl and others predicted 3 to 6 months of this new normal.
Local state of emergency.
Yet 2 weeks after that first case, the first local deaths of the virus and hospitalizations in Augusta rose to near 70.
I found that there were a lot of people who wanted to find someone to blame.
Jason Hasty was the first official COVID-19 case in our area.
You brought the coronavirus.
He still fights thoughts from those moments.
You're not going to be able to control either rumors or what people think.
Those were scary times.
Dr. Awana Churka has helped lead University Hospital's response on the front lines. The hospital has cared for 2,300 COVID patients since March of last year.
We have gained experience and we have gained confidence.
Confidence because of research and innovation. AU Health developed the first COVID-19 test in the Southeast outside of CDC or state public health efforts, and we're one of the first to start saliva testing. Now, our medical community is leading mass vaccination clinics.
We've kind of come full circle. The numbers are going down.
The numbers are as low as they've been since the end of March last year, and vaccinations are working. Health officials hope it's a shift back to the way things were before.
This thing may all soon be a bad memory.
And better memories ahead. Reporting in Augusta, Brady Trapnell on your side.
Man, if we knew then what we know now. AU Health says there are 2 COVID patients at their hospital on a ventilator right now. At the peak, there were nearly 50 patients.
And a quick reminder for people in Richmond.
We'll talk more about that in just a bit.
And plenty of athletes have a lot to overcome, but few have gone through what Caitlin Berner has.
People are always like, you're crazy playing with 3 torn ACLs after 3 torn ACLs, but I just think it's because God knows I can handle it.
And we've got more from Caitlin coming up in sports.
Plus weapons in the wrong hands, hundreds of illegal guns across Georgia and South Carolina. But our I-team found there could be even more. We're going to explain in 1 minute.
Injured? Your insurance company.
Weapons in the wrong hands. Tonight, the I-team is uncovering new information about the number of missing firearms in the 2 states.
Our I-team found hundreds of reports of lost or stolen guns all across Georgia and South Carolina in 2020. But our Meredith Anderson tells us there could be many more, not even on law enforcement's radar.
Unless you're a dealer, there are no federal laws requiring gun owners to report it if a weapon is lost or stolen. But some states do have that law. In fact, 13 of them do, and the District of Columbia, just some sort of law where you have to tell police. As you can see, Georgia and South Carolina are not on that list, making it harder for the good guys in our area to find the bad guys if the guns are in the wrong hands.
The thin blue line. It's something none of us can measure, even when it flashes for miles or stands hundreds of officers deep. There is no number for the ultimate price investigator Cecil Ridley paid when he was shot and killed in 2019. But his brothers and sisters in blue at the Richmond County Sheriff's Office are now doing some extra counting.
The stolen guns are stolen to use in crimes, armed robbery, drug dealing, aggravated assaults, the murder of a police officer.
When the I-team started working on this story, we filed an open records request with Richmond County. We wanted to know the number of incident reports of stolen firearms from 2016 to 2020. We were first told someone would have to read each report to get that number, a task that would take 40 hours, costing us an estimated $789. We sent the same request to Columbia and Aiken counties, where it seems the data was easier to find. We got these numbers pretty quickly and at no charge. Then we learned Richmond County could do the same, and then some if we crossed out 3 years. That's because deputies specifically started tracking stolen weapons in 2019, the same year investigator Ridley was killed. That night, he was on patrol, working to curb gun violence and recover stolen weapons, when a bullet from a stolen gun took his life. Deputies say the serial number had been scratched off.
When you lose somebody just doing exactly what he was out there targeted and focused to do, it's just very, very disheartening.
The data Richmond County started compiling differently that year is evident. They now keep running tabs of everything from guns that are lost to stolen weapons they were able to recover. What stands out the most, though, the number of stolen firearms, especially when you compare it to Aiken County's 2-year total of 565 stolen guns and Columbia County's 206. Richmond County recorded 715 stolen weapons.
The number is a little bit surprising. I just feel it's a product of proactive patrols and just the large amount of area that we have to cover.
The I-team found federal data backs up Richmond County's extra efforts, ranking Augusta as number 2 in the entire state for stolen firearm recovery. No matter where you live, getting guns off the streets is a big deal because of this very important street, Interstate 20, nicknamed the sex trafficking superhighway. Our stretch also sits right between 2 state capitals.
Do we have an issue with firearms trafficking? I think we have enough to keep us busy.
That's the special agent in charge of the Atlanta Field Division of the ATF. The I-team took to I-20 to ask Agent Arthur Peralta specifically about our place on the map.
Have you found that it's also been an issue for guns too, trafficking stolen weapons,
selling stolen weapons?
I would say yes. We have firearms that are trafficked out of the state of Georgia, and we have firearms that transit the state of Georgia en route to other locations.
All kinds of firearms. ATF data from 2020 shows pistols are the most common gun that was stolen or lost, and by a long shot. Next came rifles, then revolvers, then shotguns. The I-Team further analyzed data and uncovered Georgia is one of the top states in the entire country for lost and stolen guns, even though California has 3.5 times more people. In 2020, the ATF tracked 529 in Georgia and just 405 in California, even though California law requires gun owners to report thefts, and Georgia has no such laws. South Carolina doesn't have laws like that either, but the I-Team found it has more reports than Virginia, a state also with reporting laws and a bigger population.
Whether or not there needs to be any more gun laws, that's a job for the legislators who represent the people in the communities. I mean, that's why we vote for our legislators at both the state and federal level.
At the local level, Sergeant McCarty says you should always report it if your gun is lost or stolen, whether there's a law for it or not. That way, at least local law enforcement has an idea of how many of these weapons could be on the street, possibly preventing a service like this one for any other public servants, or maybe even for someone in your own family.
Sergeant McCarty said one of the most common ways weapons are stolen is when someone leaves a gun in an unlocked car. Seriously, he said if more gun owners would just make sure their weapon is in a safe place, we would all be in a much better place with all of this.
And a really good reminder, especially after the recent spike we've seen in gun sales, and even if you think it's lost, just a good idea to go ahead and file a report.
Right, so what can you do? Well, experts say to make sure you write down, for one thing, the make, the model, the serial number of your gun, because if your gun is stolen and you go to report it, it won't do law enforcement any good at all if you don't have that critical, basic information. Meredith, thank you for that. Mikhail.
And taking things over.
Mikhail, coming up here, looking at the life of an athlete who has so much to overcome, but she's already gained so much. Mike's next in sports.
Good, Val.
The Live by Camera Network is brought to you by Mountaineer Pest Services. On your sideline, sports brought to you by the Hawk Law Group.
Sometimes for reasons out of their control, people are asked to overcome unique and often painful situations in order to keep going. It's how they come out of those situations that can be really a great source of inspiration. Locally, one of those unique people is Caitlin Berner. She unfortunately missed her junior season after experiencing a third ACL tear in her knee. Earlier in her life, she also lost her father in Iraq. That's a lot of negative, but it hasn't stopped her from seeing the positives and even earning a chance to play basketball at the next level.
Really frustrating, especially when you want a college scholarship. It makes you stronger mentally.
It's tough to see any child go through that, but, you know, with her drive and her tenacity, you know, once Caitlin has her mind set on something, you know, she's very goal-oriented.
We're going to hear a lot more from Caitlin coming up tonight at 11. Anyone who thought Anthony Edwards wouldn't be good in the NBA, sorry, you're wrong. He scored a career-high 32 on Sunday and is definitely making a case for Rookie of the Year.
And we do have that weather alert